something you may not know, Florida is one of the largest markets for gin in the United States by volume of consumption.
Really? I did not know that.
Orlando, Miami, places like that consume a large amount of gin.
I would have pegged them for more tequila.
They're big martini drinkers.
Vibe, your vibe, let it collide. Find your tribe where truth can't hide. So vibe, your vibe.
Today's guest is taking gin from the back bar and put it front and center, not just in St. Louis, but around the world. She's the founder of the Gin Room, where we're at.
Welcome.
A recognized bar that has become a Midwest destination for gin lovers. She's also the force behind Gin World.
Yes.
I found out, yeah. A global movement of festivals, education that connects distillers, bartenders, and enthusiasts across continents. I'm probably going to mess this up. Natasha Bahrami.
Yes. Yeah.
Natasha Bahrami, known internationally as the Gin Girl. I didn't know you have a name.
Yes.
Wow. Has gone from studying foreign policy
Totally,
to rewriting gin culture in America. She's been inducted into the Gin Guild in London.
Mm-hmm. And the Gin Hall of Fame.
In a Gin Hall of Fame, and continues to push the boundaries of what a bar can be. Not just a place to drink, but a place to learn, connect, and celebrate. Natasha, welcome to Vibe Your Vibe with me,
So
Kirk
wonderful
Francis.
to have you here. Yes, of all the gin joints around the world, you walked into ours, and here we are on a beautiful day here in St. Louis.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what St. Louis
We
weather
don't often get this. So
is all about.
I wish.
Right.
We take it when we can get it.
Right. I just read your little bit of a bio, and I was, number one, we're both St. Louis grads.
I love it. We both went to St. Louis University.
Yeah.
We're Billikens, and we're definitely driven people.
So did you graduate with like a political science degree?
I graduated from the business school.
Oh, from the business school.
Yeah.
Okay. They wrote me into.
Yes.
I was in arts and science, and they
you
decided to.
You have to somehow get a job, right? So
Yeah.
Business school.
Who were some of your professors that you had, if we don't mind diving down memory lane here? I'm just curious if you had some of the same ones I had.
I had Professor Boone, who is technically a law professor, but she was doing business law with us. Definitely some really great professors. The crazy thing is most of my professors were our regular guests at Cafe Natasha on Delmar. So I would, yes, as well as yourself.
I didn't know that there was that relationship. Was that yours?
Natasha of Cafe Natasha, which my family started in 1983 here in downtown St. Louis. And we were downtown for 14 years. We were on Delmar for 10 years. And we've been here on South Grand for over 25 years now in this same location. So we're definitely not new to the St. Louis community. The Gin Room, I returned back from some of my other life adventures in 2013 to open a little gin bar here in St. Louis, Missouri, which I call it lovingly Bumblebutt Midwest, especially then. But I was really excited to open a gin bar here in the Midwest rather than I had come back from the East Coast, but East Coast and West Coast seemed to always be somehow a little bit ahead of what the Midwest was doing at that point. And I wanted us to, it's not the only thing we're ahead on, but like it was exciting to be able to come here and open a gin bar in my hometown in places where kind of unassumingly, like why would you have the center of gin for the United States here in St. Louis, Missouri? And though that wasn't our intention, the community here, St. Louis industry, enthusiasts, all of that embraced us so much that we were able to become this like education focused bar right here in St. Louis.
That's interesting because that was what I found in my research. What is the education component of this?
Well,
like somebody's like, is it they're intimidated?
Say,
they don't know about gin. And so they're kind of like, oh, I don't know about gin.
We don't know, but we want to learn, or we want to be, maybe they don't even want to learn. They're willing to like take a step in that direction. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2013, when all of the people who were pushing me to not open a gin bar.
Oh, you were actually encouraged not to do this.
Oh, of course.
It's going to be a failure. It's not going to work.
Nobody drinks gin is what they would say. And 2, nobody drinks gin in the Midwest, which is a beer and bourbon town, right? We are entirely beer, bourbon, and barbecue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we do much more than that at this point.
They never
however,
met my wife's grandmother.
There's clearly so much more to St.
Yes.
Louis than that. Obviously, we've been winning national awards about our culinary and cocktail scenes here for many, many years. But what they were saying was actually true. Nobody was drinking gin in any large quantity here. That was clearly the case. We were deep into bourbon, etc. And so when I moved back, I had to overcome, I wouldn't call it a naysayer. I think I would call it rationalities. Like, why don't you just open a bourbon bar or a whiskey bar? That's what's exciting right now. And I said, but you just identified that there's a void in the market,
right?
That there isn't this. And I've always been, I don't know if at that point I would call myself an entrepreneur, but at that point, I was always a person who would choose the road less traveled. I always felt like perhaps
bigger challenge.
Yeah, I was always open to a challenge. And so I didn't open a gin bar here in St. Louis for a challenge. I opened it because I had fallen in love with the category of gin. And that was early years in,
I think I read 22. You were 22.
I was 22. I was the ripe age of 22. And I would say that growing up in your parents' restaurant business or any of your parents' business where you were forced, well, you were kind of required to work at quite a young age. And when I say work, by 18, I was running Cafe Natasha Del Mar by myself while taking the highest number of credits at St. Louis University, while my parents opened this location, which was South Grand. I had to do that to allow them to open this. Otherwise, at that point, we may have gone bankrupt if we hadn't been able to open this properly. So it wasn't really something I wanted. It was something I actually very much disliked having to run the restaurant at that point. I felt it was maybe taking a lot of my childhood from me at that point.
Okay.
But, I was 18 and I was going to college at that point. And I would say that would drive you to drink. And as that drives you, it drove me to a dirty martini. And it wasn't necessarily gin. I enjoyed a dirty martini. I enjoyed the salinity from that. And there was a bar that I had experienced that I walked in. Again, I already told you I was young. I was 22. And the gentleman, who's an older gentleman, had served me the most exciting dirty martini I had ever experienced. And I said to him, "Is this a special olive juice you're using?" And he goes, "It's gin and olive juice." And I was like, "You put gin in it?" And at that point, he just walks off. He's like, "I'm not tolerating this at this moment." And I wish I could ever find him again because I would love to have him see the impact he had on the world of spirits or on this person or the category of gin. And
so you don't even know what kind of gin it was?
I feel that it was either Beefeater or Bombay Sapphire.
Okay.
Really at that point, it was when craft distilling movement was starting to explode, but really hadn't really started at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely a classic London Dry that was in the market.
Okay. Because my wife loved gin, going to college and going out. And our go-to was Tanqueray.
Yeah.
And then somebody introduced us to Hendrix.
Yes.
And then we were
definitely one that opened a lot of quite a trailblazer pushing forward the category of gin.
And then just most recently this year, I'm at the store because I'm more of a bourbon guy. My wife's more of the gin girl. And so I'm buying some bourbon, probably spending way too much money. And I'm like, I better get a bottle of gin. I go, what do you got gin-wise? And so they gave me Silent Pool.
Okay, yes.
And so he's like, you got to try this. And I tried it, and I'm like,
I actually visited Silent Pool.
OMG.
Yeah.
Like what? I go, okay, yeah, I'll take a bottle of that.
Yeah.
I go, that's like a no-brainer. I gave that to her.
Absolutely.
And then I met Dave Weglar's. And I mean, then he just,
in his beautiful botanical library or spirits library that's lines all of his walls there. That's actually
and then
uniquely.
I guess that's the thing that I guess is kind of, that was you at 22, right? Having that kind of same mind blowing, like I didn't realize
it opens, somebody opens your doors.
Was like this, what?
It can be exciting. It can be
very exciting.
Something other than what you were young and you were at your parents' house or grandparents' house, and it was a dusty bottle of something, probably Old Bumpy, you just like anything else, you just poured it straight, maybe, or I don't know. But that's definitely something that may not give you the best experience in the world.
And so you're like, yeah.
Not my thing.
It, right?
Not my thing. Right. And so we've spent definitely over a decade trying to bring people either back over to the category of gin, dispel some of the misconceptions about it, or just allow a whiskey drinker to walk into our bar and earn their trust in a way, whether it's a barrel-aged gin cocktail or maybe just a whiskey drink where they start to trust us and they allow us to make them something else that they might
besides
enjoy.
Bourbon.
It was actually this weekend. There was a gentleman who had walked in here and got one of our dry rye gin old fashions, which is a gin old fashioned. And he sat there and he said out loud to me, he goes, I would pick this cocktail over a 25-year-old single malt scotch. Someone like us who are always trying to bring gin to a forefront and allowing somebody else who's so much of a whiskey drinker to say, this excited me more than maybe a bottle of whiskey that is hundreds of dollars. So when he came here, he sat at the bar at the gin room and he was making whiskeys and rums, right? He was a distiller. And he came and goes, we really love gin and we'd really love to make gin. I wish we could. And I looked at him. I was like, you distill, right? He goes, yes. I said, you have a still, right? He goes, yes. I said, okay, let's connect next week and we're going to make some gin. And so that was the trajectory of what happened there.
How many years ago was that?
7, 8, something like that.
And so let me get this straight. The library
has been built since he met me. Yes. Because
was non-existent.
It was
7 years ago.
Non-existent because the way that the projection that I help make many gins in this world, from international to St. Louis, Missouri. And I love for people to come to us and really want to create something unique. And Dave really wanted to create something unique. So it was a process that we had worked on together, and I'd communicated to him. It's important to understand the individual botanicals that go into a gin and the sum of the parts. And so that's where he took my advice and ran with it. And now it's totally his thing, right? Where each of the botanicals he distilled, and I pushed him to distill each botanical separately on a little mini still to understand what those flavor profiles do before throwing them all together. And so he used that method to kind of understand which botanicals he got excited about, what would work well together. And then he did multiple distillations with things he liked, tweaked it, and came out with Still 630's Volstead's Folly, which is kind of like a balanced running through a forest. So it has piney notes, but there's no citrus in it, but it uses lemongrass, but it's all things that he played with to come together to create something that was really exciting.
Yeah. And guess what? My wife, we've got Hendrix, we've got Silent Pool, and no offense towards those. They're very good. But what does she go? And she hasn't even opened. I bought the whole lineup except for Navy.
Okay.
Because I thought it was going to be a little bit too punchy for
Plus,
her.
you have to be able to come back for something. So.
Sure, of course. And but I bought all the other gins.
Yes.
And so she hasn't even opened those yet. But
Yeah.
she goes to how do you say it? Is it Volstead?
Volstead's Folly.
Volstead's Folly
is really, and yeah, so this is
From the
what we
Volstead
do.
Act, right?
Whether it's, yes, it is definitely, you can tell by even the label that kind of a little punchy towards that. But that's what we do. Dave is one example of someone coming to the gin room and creating an entire orbit on their own. Okay. So he came to us, we influenced him. He's influencing a whole nother world.
All from this guy with the dirty martini.
Drinking, all from this guy
we need to find
who
this guy.
served me a gin martini. Because in the early 2000s, vodka was king, right?
Right.
I wasn't ordering a vodka dirty martini. I was just ordering a dirty martini. And so at that time, once that happened to me, I started understanding that there was a whole world of gin that was starting to flourish. At that time, two things were happening. The American craft cocktail movement within bars around the United States, fresh juices, things like that, using bitters, was starting to explode again. We were moving out of the 90s grasshopper and sweet martinis and flavored vodkas over to something that was a bit more craft. The second thing was happening was the American craft distilling movement. We went from 100 distilling licenses to over 1,000 within a couple years in those early 2000s. So those both things were happening. So new gins started landing at my bar. We were not a gin bar. We were a Persian restaurant. Okay.
Oh, so this is back at
Persian
Cafe
restaurant,
Natal?
100%, where these exciting gins, there's a couple that took me down the rabbit hole. New Holland Brewing, which is out of Michigan, had New Holland Spirits and Knickerbocker Gin. That was one of the first movers that landed here that took my breath away. And then Blue Coat Gin, which was out of Philadelphia, started coming into the market. Both of those were a little bit softer, not as juniper forward, citrus forward, but had beautiful like pepper notes or cardamom notes that would come out of it. And I, again, much younger at that point, running a Persian restaurant, but we were running a legacy restaurant. People's parents, grandparents, children, their children had children. They all came here. The entire families came here. They started in their parents' womb and we went to their weddings when they had their weddings and then their babies. That's the kind of restaurant Cafe Natasha was, right? So they trusted us already. It was also already foreign cuisine to them, but we had earned their trust. So I used a platform of a family-owned, immigrant-owned restaurant that had already gained trust to use that to earn trust for gin. So I would go over to their tables and I was like, there's this new gin that came into market. I'm so excited about it. I'm in love with it. Are you open to trying it? If you hate it, don't worry about it. I'll get you something else, right? And I'd baby step them into it and they got excited about it. Whiskey drinkers would come and want an old fashioned, a Manhattan. Barrel-aged gin was starting to get exciting at that time. Both of these gins I just mentioned had started creating a barrel-aged gin that landed in our market because we were working so closely with them. They were like, okay, let's have them come. Let's let us play with them here. Okay. And so I started making barrel-aged gin cocktails. We had one of my best friends who now lives in Michigan, but was like, I'm a whiskey guy. I'm going to drink my whiskey drinks. And I slowly got him into barrel-aged gins. And now he's a gin lover, right? But it all started with building that trust. And that's why we are and always have had to be an education-focused bar, because without it, we wouldn't have anybody interested in drinking gin. We had to create it. And soon after that, when we started, there was 3 gin distilleries in Missouri.
3.
We are now over 20 gin distilleries in Missouri. That is
Really?
in the last,
Wow.
we've been the gin room since 2013. So we're like 12 years now. In those 12 years, we've moved from 3 to 20 something, not just distilleries, gin distilleries. Specifically here. It went from bars all around St. Louis to having maybe 2 to 3 gins to now having 10 to 15 gins behind their bar and still not calling themselves a gin bar. They're cocktail bars that now need a range of flavor profiles of gin from now floral gins, savory gins, tomato distilled gins, gins that almost taste like agave, right? There's such a flavor profile. It is the widest flavor profile of any spirit that exists.
Which is so exciting about it.
Is it exciting, right?
Because it's kind of like, I guess,
it can be
you're
anything.
Almost like the gin sommelier, if there's such a thing.
We are
Is there
those, we are whatever you want to call us, but we are people who, just like a sommelier, is someone who guides you through the wide world of terroir and flavor profiles that a grape can project, whether it's from a different part of the world, right? We tried to unravel what you just got excited about was all the flavors that gin can do. It's also the biggest obstacle for the category of gin because you walk into a retail store, right? And they're beautiful bottles on a gin shelf, but you want to make a dirty martini, right? And you accidentally pick out the most floral gin that's there, right? It's not going to excite you in a dirty martini. And you might be like, I didn't like that. This sucks because I just had to buy a bottle and I think I don't like it, except you probably love it in like a gimlet or something, another beautiful cocktail, maybe a Negroni, maybe like something citrus forward, right? But you bought it to do, or you wanted it in a Bloody Mary or something, right? And you're like, that didn't work. I'm going to go back to vodka, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to say, let us guide you, help you understand the wide range of flavors that are out there, right? Let you feel more comfortable with the category.
Right. Because I guess when I started drinking wine, I was old enough to kind of experiment with wine. I was so intimidated by it.
It's
I had
so
no
much.
idea. It was so much. And I think for me now, learning what I've learned about gin, it's almost even more intimidating than even wine.
Yeah.
Because it's such a wide
And we're
range.
trying to remove
That intimidation.
We are intimidation removers.
Right. Okay. Like come over here, sit at the bar, talk to the bartender. What do you like?
We're guides.
What's your taste?
Yes.
Because there's probably, I'm guessing, regardless of your taste, there's a gin.
Every gin is not for everybody, but there is a gin for everybody. That is
Right.
our entire motto. Every gin is not for me, period.
Right.
And people say, what's your favorite gin? And I said, I always have a top 15. That's the smallest range I can put as my top because there's
15.
just so many.
Well, I think Dave answered that question to me. Have you ever asked Dave that question?
So tell me.
He's
it's a
like,
secret.
okay, because I have 3 children. He's like, okay, so which one's your favorite?
On
got
any
3
given
children.
day, the one that's bothering me the less, I guess. So
But the point is, how do you pick your favorite child is what he's trying to say.
Exactly.
He's like, all
it
of these
was really
gins I
excited
make,
to
I
see
like
him
all of them.
fall in. Like his wife was even more into gin. He was like, my wife really loves gin. I'm not saying he didn't, but I think this whole journey helped him become so much of a gin lover. That's not the only Missouri distillery I've helped in
It's just one I'm
certain
familiar
their
with
gin
and reason
progress.
why I'm here.
Yeah. And every single gin that I've helped create, whether people know about it or not, because that's not relevant to me.
Right.
Any gin that I've helped make and they were willing to listen has won double gold anywhere they submit because it's helping them understand what they need to think about when they're creating something. However, even with all of those gins, all of the all of those gins are not necessarily for everybody, right? Or
course.
for every cocktail.
Like you're talking about. Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily put it in with tomato juice.
Right. Or put it in something savory. Some of my favorite gins are extremely beautifully well made, but floral. I would not say that a floral flavor profile is my favorite, right? However, there are some gins that are deeply in that category that are my favorites. And it's likely because they're really well balanced. There's something that expresses themselves so well that it just drives you to want to experience them. And that's why a distiller is so important.
And why I got to come here. I'm going to have to come here.
You have to come and experience this.
And because what I was doing is and again, I'm sorry to keep plugging Dave. It's just my world is expanding and that's the only thing I know right now. But I'm drinking them all neat. And I love them neat. And now what I'm excited to do now that I have
is mix
this
them.
is now because I know nothing about mixology. I know zero. I know.
And we try to keep that simple for you too. There's lots of things you can do. And I'm going to baby step you in that, maybe not over this conversation, but give you some tools where at home, you can take the entire line of gins that you have in your house and easily kind of go through all of them. And if you did the same thing to all of them, you would come out with completely different cocktails because they're so different from each other.
Right. It's just like we're such kindergartners in this whole journey because our whole thing is just tonic. And then we found out
there's better tonic.
There's tonic and then there's tonic.
Yeah.
My daughter, knowing that my wife liked gin, when she had a birthday, sent her
some really good
gin and gave her some proper
I love that.
But proper tonic.
Your daughter seems like a wonderful human.
Blown away with like, oh, you don't just buy any tonic to mix with your gin. You have to have the right tonic. It's as important. That's what you were kind of saying, which is so important.
And pairing it correctly. It can be a good tonic, but it doesn't go necessarily with that gin. So these are stories I get all the time. Probably many years ago, someone walked into my bar and is now one of my favorite people or a regular here. But they had, this is not a blame on any other bar or any other thing. They had gone and they had tried a gin that I am very fond of. And it was paired in a way that did not complement it well. Mm-hmm. And for at least a year, even though they trusted me, they were not willing to try that gin again. Okay. After a year or so I was like, okay, is today the day you're willing to do this again? And they're like, why not? Let's try it. They so fell in love with the gin. They took a bottle home and it's now become one of their favorites because they finally allowed me to do something that with the gin, mix it in a way in a cocktail that accented that flavor profile. Is that an argument to say, okay, well, it sounds like it's so complicated. I just want to be able to pour something and drink it. Understood. That's also what we do. We try to give you the skills. There's a simple cocktail. It's called a Tom Collins. Mm-hmm. What is a Tom Collins? It is lemon juice or lemonade, okay? It is a little sweetener, whether it's simple syrup or, again, lemonade, which might already be sweetened. And you top it with some bubbles like club soda, right? And that is a drink on its own, period. You could get a Sicilian lemon tonic and do the same thing and be able to make an exquisite cocktail that is not complex. Gin does not need to be complicated. If we give the tools from a gimlet, which is lime, have you heard of a margarita before?
Sure.
Oh, you've heard of a margarita. And it's a tool that's made tequila accessible. 10, 15 years ago, people were not drinking good agave. They were still talking about worms in agave.
Right.
Education has been one of the biggest forces for tequila and agave and mezcal because they had to overcome the obstacles that they didn't understand. Mm. Gin needs a strong foundation of education in order to see how simple it is to be used, but also margarita, lime, a sweetener, you can put salt on the rim or not, and you pick a good agave. Okay? As simple as it comes. So lemonade or limeade could make a margarita, right? Gin, gimlet, is lime, a sweetener, probably simple syrup, and gin, literally a daiquiri. A daiquiri is a great rum with lime and simple syrup, okay? Maybe they'll use demerara. We can make this more complex. I'm just simplifying something.
Right.
A
Like
margarita,
3 to 5 ingredients, and
a
that's it.
gimlet, and a daiquiri is the same exact cocktail in the most layman's terms, okay?
Right.
With a different spirit. One has agave, one has rum, and one has gin. So the simplest of cocktails can be done so many ways. And it's almost like pick a great gin and put it in that and you're done. As you said, gin is still intimidating. The number one way that people are learning and getting excited about gin is through bartenders and through bars where they have crafted cocktails that are like, oh my God, I didn't know that I could love gin, but I love this cocktail, or I love this bar, or I love this thing and I trust them to make me something good. And then they realize, like I did many years ago, I might be okay with gin, but I didn't know how to use it.
Right. Like, so I was excited with Dave with the barrel aged gin, thinking that'll be my wife's gateway to bourbon. It's probably going to end up being my gateway
To gin?
To gin.
Yeah.
It's gonna backfire on me.
Hey, once you come over to our side, so much magic occurs.
Yeah. How many gins do you actually have here?
We started out, which is interesting. We started out with 7 gins. And then we climbed to 13. And then we climbed to now over 400.
400
Yes.
different gins.
And I mean, 12 years ago, there wasn't 400 gins in our market. Obviously, the growth of enthusiasm for gin
Each
to be able
distillery
to
probably has,
even the distilleries, but distribution isn't going to bring something in unless there's consumers to enjoy it. St. Louis has become one of the largest growth markets for gin in the United States, and
Really?
we're very proud of that. We may have 400 plus gins here that I can pour you at the gin room. In my private collection, we have over 2,000 gins. So
from all over the world.
all over
I'm
the
guessing.
world
Right,
that
yeah.
are like, these are our collection, but it's not distributed in St. Louis, Missouri.
Right.
So I
These
can't
400
open
are
here.
that
That is
you can
correct.
get and
Yes.
You
That
can
a guest
pour it
can
every
purchase
day and
it.
you
They can
get
buy it
more.
from us. They can buy it from a retail store. Things that you could buy here and replicate at home. There's over 400 of those. So, right. And I don't put every gin on my shelf. Not that I say I'm picky. It's just people come here to find something interesting, right?
Mhm.
If you could get it at any store in any part of the world, they'll come, and I've put some of those gins on my menu because they're delicious. Bombay is delicious. Beefeater is delicious. Tanqueray 10, oh my gosh, is delicious. They'll come and I'll put it on my cocktail and be like, no, I want to try something else. And I'm like, I understand, but these are really great gins as well. So we often have obstacles where people come in and say, oh no, I don't want something I know. I want something I don't know. And so both ways, we get things in different. Everyone who walks into our place is at a different level, is at a different interest level. And some are being dragged in with their gin lover friends and are like, I don't do gin. I had 10 people last week come in to do gin tasting flight. It's something we do all the time. You can make a reservation for it. You can walk in and ask for it. It's a 5 gin tasting flight that is curated to a guest. Okay, I talk to you, we ask questions, and then we try to do it's like a mini education seminar that's like 30 to 40 minutes, depending on how busy we are, where they can taste a range and spectrum of flavors based on their palate, okay? If they like floral, like citrus, or if they like whiskey, I'm going to do a different gin flight for the guests to be able to bring them into the category of gin. So imagine last weekend there was a 10 person who wanted to do a gin tasting flight.
Wow.
I had set them all up for them.
So 10
10
different
people.
flights.
And then 2 of the people were like, absolutely not. I don't drink gin. I'm not going to do this. We said, okay. And so 8 of them, I set them up. We were doing it. They got so excited that the 9th person said, okay, this is exciting. Could you deal me in? I would love to experience this, right? And I was like, okay. And there was a lot of fun banter. Like we joked around, so now I did 9 gin tasting flights. And then the 10th person, who is very much a wine drinker and just was a person who maybe couldn't drink too much or mix too well. And is like, I stick to wine. But we even got that 10th person to even do a few little sips of what we were doing just to get them a little bit more engaged in what was happening. That story is literally the reason why we do what we do. 2 people in that 10 top, that was their 4th time doing a gin tasting. And each time they bring more people with them who are not experienced in gin, but are willing to learn. So we create new orbits by exciting people about the category. And then they go, maybe they live in Cincinnati, maybe they live in Oklahoma City, and then go back to their own worlds and share that love with somebody else.
Right. Now, how many other places like
Do
this
we do
even
this?
exist?
Yeah.
Are doing these?
We have a whole Google map I've put together. Gin World has put together a Google map of gin bars or cocktail bars that are gin-centric.
Okay.
That are all over the world or the United States. So we have a little map of that. And
is that on a website?
It should be, and it will be there at some point. We're finalizing some of that. But if you walk into the gin room, I do, and you ask me for that list, we share it with anybody.
Okay.
And because a lot of people come visit us from all over the world, all over the United States.
At home.
They want to be able to enjoy gin outside of just coming to the gin room.
Right.
Or they want to enjoy gin outside of their favorite bartender at their bar, right?
Wow.
They want to be able to come home and do these
mindset.
things. And so we're not trying to create things that are entirely unapproachable. However, we do put cocktails on the menu. Like there's one that's called the yogurt. Okay.
The yogurt.
And it's extremely exciting, right? But it's not, if you're your first day here and you've never tried gin, that's not the cocktail I'm going to give you. But people also come here to have complex cocktails as well. So we try to be able to cater to any walk of life that you're in so that we can become approachable. But also we want to be able to be who we are, which is show how exciting gin can be or how far we can push it as well. We don't want to necessarily just be on the basic level just because some people are going to come there. We want to, that's why right now there's 28 cocktails on our menu.
28
There's
cocktails.
something for everybody. And we are lucky enough to have a highly educated bartending team here that is willing to be open, patient, understanding, and guide you.
Now, is that
through
fair
things.
to them to call them bartenders? Or are they really
they're your
mixologists?
Beautiful guides.
Is
I
that
think
maybe the
they
higher
would
level
prefer
term? They prefer
to be
bartender?
called bartender.
Oh, really?
Mixologist is the word that becomes pretentious.
Oh, you
to
think it's a little
us.
pretentious? Okay.
And really
But they're experts.
They're people. What are we experts at? This is what we're actually experts at. We're experts at creating human interaction. Okay. Listening, taking something that a guest tells us and turning that into something that excites them. Okay.
Wow.
You coming in and saying, not you, you're not going to say that, but, oh no, I only drink whiskey. Heard. I'm not going to push you farther until I build a trust with you that you're willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to listen. You might come to my bar and say, oh my God, I came from all over the world to come here. I literally came to St. Louis to come to the gin room. I'm going to try to give you the widest experience that you can have so you can leave here saying, oh my gosh, I sat at the bar at the gin room and they led me through an entire journey.
Right.
But you have to talk to us and allow us into your life
versus the bourbon guy. It's going to be a different journey for them.
Like whiskey-esque or Manhattan-esque. And it has like a Bobby Burns on it, which is those who love whiskey knows that it's quite a whiskey-esque cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
Our Bobby Burns has no whiskey in it at all. Yet
it probably blows people away when you serve it to them.
Looks like whiskey, smells like whiskey, tastes a little bit lighter than whiskey would do, but as exciting as a whiskey cocktail there.
Right. So for all you bourbon folks out
if
there,
you allow us to, we have something for you too.
Right.
We're not trying to take you away from whiskey or agave or even vodka. We're just asking you to add us also to your interest in this spirits world.
Exactly. Right. The experience of spirits in general. Right. Amazing.
We love to feed you too. Like,
and they have
the gin room is a restaurant.
Right. We need to go down that path.
People come here and spend hours eating I say, come for the food, stay for the drinks. When we were Cafe Natasha, right? We were a Persian restaurant that people were coming and becoming excited about gin in. Now the gin room has gained such a following, or maybe it's gotten some national awards or global awards, right? So people are like, I'm coming to the gin room, and sometimes forget that we have one of the most exciting culinary.
You talked about it's a legacy restaurant, meaning
it was a legacy food.
Well, when I experienced it, I remember coming
Cafe
in
Natasha,
and seeing tables of 8 and 10 and 12 people from little kids to grandparents. It was just an amazing experience. Am I right? Am I remembering that correctly?
100%. We were a place you brought the entire family to. We are still a place that we want you to bring the entire family to. I grew up in hospitality and love, and that's why I do what I do. If I was doing this for anything else, this is the wrong industry for me to be in. This is always an uphill struggle. We do it because we love the joy that you get when you come here. We have house-made, handmade pasta, hand-rolled every single day. We have exciting dishes that are, I call it now new American in a way.
New American. Okay.
With Italian influences, French influences, Asian influences in there. Our cocktails can kind of push their own boundaries as well. We do Amaro tasting flights here. We do.
What's Amaro tasting?
A whole nother segment, but it's Amaro is an Italian or even Spanish or even French. It's named after Amaro in Italian means bitter. And if you've heard of Campari or Aperol or even Fernet or Vermouth, these are all Amaros. Okay.
Okay.
They're different bittering agents that are being used. We know them well in cocktails. Okay. Mm-hmm. But Amaro in itself can be drank on its own or in spritzes or things like that, that we love to do as well. We are not just a gin place. We're a place that you come to have family dinner or fun dinner or whatever, that you can come and say, oh my gosh, that meal was, this was one of the best meals and one of the best cocktail experiences I have had. And these are people coming from LA or New York or Chicago who are like, I really enjoyed the entire experience.
Right. Now you're driving down a whole nother level. Because I still remember those experiences coming into your restaurant. I mean, probably part of that is, I don't know what you know about the brain and the food and the taste and all that, but that has something to do with that.
Memory experiences.
That memory experience. It really enhances.
Absolutely.
I mean, I literally remember walking through the door and seeing the big table there and going, oh my God, are we ever going to get a table?
And you did, I think.
We did get a table.
Yes, we try to be very welcoming.
Amazing time, amazing food. And I'm trying to remember the part of us, concerned about how long the wait was going to be and all this, but that part of the memory is gone. We don't remember any of that. We just remember
the experience, the food,
and the other families.
Hopefully the hospitality.
Of course, the hospitality was there and the other families and just the overall
We grew up
taste explosion that
in
we
a
had
family.
while we were there.
We grew up in the St. Louis community family.
Mhm.
St. Louis embraced us so deeply as an immigrant family here.
So are you an immigrant or are you?
I'm a first generation.
So you're first generation.
I'm a first generation. My parents are both immigrants. They came over early 70s. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a geologist. And life happens, you know, this was something they had to do. They didn't want to do it. And in 1983, where the economy was very much down, and he was a foundational geologist. No one was building and no one was hiring a Persian after the Iranian hostage crisis. So he had some land, he sold it, and they opened a restaurant in downtown St. Louis. That became so popular. There was a line around the building at the little kitchen there for 14 years. I had people walk in here this week that were like, I used to eat at your restaurant downtown. And I remember you when you were in pigtails running around or in a little corner, like reading your book. And you are now a James Beard nominee. You're now like in the Gin Hall of Fame, or if you Google my name, we have quite some accolades, or like we're on the eater list. We're all on all these things, but we're still the same people who could barely survive in those days because in 1983, Italian and Chinese was ethnic cuisine. Like it was still new and interesting to us. We had to spoon feed Persian cuisine to the consumers here in St. Louis until a point where they couldn't do without it.
Right.
I used that same learning experience that I had from my parents that baby stepped people into scary Persian cuisine, right? Where now it's like, yeah, cuisine and ethnic cuisine is exciting here in St. Louis, but it wasn't something that was always the case. I used that experience that my parents taught me, the hard work, you see an obstacle, you work harder to overcome those obstacles. And education was always that way. They used it in one way. I used education of, let me baby step you into the category of gin by the trust that myself and my parents' restaurant had created. I can't tell you that if I came back and opened a standalone gin bar in 2013 in St. Louis, that it would still be here.
Right.
I don't think that would be the case.
You had that existing base of people that trusted.
They trusted us. They were, what is Natasha coming up with right now?
Yeah.
What crazy idea is she doing now? That they were willing to trust us to do that. And they told other people, and other people told other people. We are now using that model that we created here. This year, we have done 15 Gin World cities in the United States. We are now entirely national, taking the platform that we accidentally created of education here in St. Louis and going to 15 other medium tier markets in the United States and hosting multiple day, 7 to 8 event weeks where we go to their cities with our brands and our gins and do educational 30 gin blind tasting seminars or pop-ups and things where we create this enthusiasm that we created in, again, lovingly Bumblebutt St. Louis and going to other Oklahoma City. We went to Baltimore. We went to, we're going to Cincinnati. We're going to, we actually did Detroit, which is slightly bigger, but still not necessarily a huge gin market, right?
What about Florida? You heading to Florida anytime soon?
You know, we are continuing to grow, and one day we will make it there, but we are kind of avoiding, if something you may not know, Florida is one of the largest markets for gin in the United States by volume of consumption.
Really? I did not know that.
So you're Orlando, Miami, places like that actually consume a large amount of gin.
I would have pegged them for more tequila.
They're big martini drinkers.
Oh, big
They're
martini
huge martini drinkers down there.
Okay.
And so, so sometimes it's a harder market to approach because you've kind of already been saturated in a way. I'm not saying the smaller cities in Florida, but the larger cities in Florida have already been pretty saturated with the large brands, which is great. That's what needs to happen to grow the category of gin. So we've now moved from, we're still trying to convert you to the category of gin, the independent human, but we're also trying to grow the entire market share for gin in the United States.
And I just like to share, it's just a mindset that I have, and I think Dave shares it too. You just have this amazing abundance mindset, meaning there's all these people out there.
We want to share.
There's all these bars out there, and I want to help them get this experience out.
This is just what we call the Gin Room in St. Louis is a brick and mortar full of love and education, right? But it's something that we bounce off of, whether it's having a guest come from a different city and fall in love with us and go back to their city and share love, whether it's an industry come to our bar, gain enthusiasm or friendship with us and go to other cities, or if it's us taking our team and our love and our brands and going to other cities and creating their own orbits that they're going to pick up and build.
And spread the.
Because we go to those cities and it's a big female driven industry community. And they go, I'm so glad you contacted me. I love gin. I've been excited to push more gin or put more gin cocktails in on my menu. And you've just inspired me or influenced me, or this has been a jump off for me to remind myself I want to do more gin, right? But sometimes people are there. I love whiskey. I love bourbon. I love rye. I love Canadian whiskey. I'm not against vodka either, okay? I love rum. I love agave. My husband owns Monstera and Mezcaleria next door, where he's kind of me in the agave world. He wants to teach people about great tequila and great mezcal or great Mexican rums or things like that, just things that people don't know about.
Right.
We have in our little family have always been education forward, and we kind of try to exude that. So when you reached out to me and say, I don't really know what you're doing, right? But you're somebody who wants to spread the word about something, I'm going to say yes. Because if I could even influence you or people who might be willing to listen, like there is a gin for everybody, no matter what kind of drinker you are.
Right. Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you, and what's really just kind of blown me away, and I kind of knew it already, but the way you've packaged it all together is, I mean, I guess if there's one way you could sum it up for your mom and dad and for yourself, is one of your biggest factors of success was having an education mindset. And I think that could be applied to
Anything,
industry.
any industry. Be welcoming.
Right. Be welcoming and say, look,
be open.
Oh, this is what you have to do. You got to drink this gin. No, that's not what you're saying at all. You're saying, learning about that person based on your feedback and working with them and mentoring them and educating them. Okay, here, we'll try this because based on what you're telling me, if you're open to try this
might be a good gateway.
This might be a good thing for you. You might decide that you like gin more than what you typically been drinking.
And even if I convince you to like it a little bit more than you disliked it, then I won,
right.
Like
just trying to open people's
it's
minds
just what
up.
We're trying to do.
But the same way your parents did with the Persian cuisine.
The community was part of who we are. The only reason we're at 42 years now. We've been open for 42 years. The reason my parents ran their restaurant for 39 of those 42 years is because they didn't want to let down a community. There's people who come, there's a lot of us, especially St. Louis, a lot of us. I'm not the only one here. You may have heard of Faux Grand. You may have heard of Sado. You may have heard of a lot of these places where the person who's running them started as kids in their parents' restaurants. The gentleman who just opened Fo Long on South Grand, he's been running restaurants with his parents since he was a kid, and he just fell in love with it. And these are families and communities and generations that have done what we do. I've moved the community that embraced us and embraced my parents and embraced all of these. And we've worked to make a spirit and gin community. I have communities that we are deep friendships with, from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco to Phoenix to Oklahoma City. They're all people that embrace us and we embrace them. But something happens in their community. They had a flood. Someone was in an accident. Somebody has this. We fly to their cities and we do something to help them rebuild. We do it for each other. When I celebrated our 10-year anniversary of Gin Room last year, Washington, D.C. has some of the best bars, some of the world's best bars. They're on the list of some of the world's best bars. They don't have time to come to St. Louis, Missouri, right?
Right.
We've been deep friends with them for before they even opened their bars that are now on world's best bars list, right? I called them. I was like, hi, I know you're super busy, but we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary in St. Louis. It'll be in November, so maybe when you're not as busy, would you be willing to fly in and do pop-ups with us showcasing your bars in St. Louis and like build and show and bring communities together? All of them said yes. I had 16 DC best of the best here in November doing a pop-up here that they had no time to do, but they're willing to come and they're falling in love with St. Louis. St. Louis is falling in love with DC. Like, it's about bringing industry together. It's about bringing community together. If one of us is down, we have to pick each other up. And these are just communities that we're building together. We are using gin as our platform. I happened to fall in love with that, right? It could be anything.
Right.
But all I say is anything that you're doing in life, is it worth doing if you're not passionate about it? If you're just working a 9 to 5, which I've done as well, how long can you do that if you don't love what you're doing? So I think a lot of people, especially post-COVID, are deciding to move into something that they love rather than just sticking to a job because they're scared of, stability there.
Right. You're trading that stability for
a paycheck. I think people are less and less
stealing your time,
trading
away.
things for a paycheck. They're wanting to do what they love to do. And they're finding out that if they put all of their love and energy in something, that they might become experts at that. At 22 till about 30, I was in love with gin, but I didn't realize it. I have never been a gin drinker. I lived in Lebanon. I lived in New York. I lived in Washington, D.C. And unintentionally and subconsciously, I found myself talking about gin or learning about gin or doing these things. I was working in foreign policy in Washington, D.C., right? Once you kind of realize that there's something that you're doing that you fall in love with, you realize you might have created an expertise for yourself that you didn't realize. In 2011, I realized there was less than 2 handfuls of us around the United States who had the knowledge and range of spectrum of the category of gin. And I was like, well, why don't I share that? And not in the big cities. Let me move back to my city and create that love. And that's exactly what happened. Was that scary? Yeah.
Right.
It's something I wanted to do? Yeah. Were they right? Nobody was coming here for gin. Yes. The first 2 years of the gin room was me basically trying to convince people to drink gin. We've passed that point now, but now there's other people who are coming to me and like, I'm in love with what you've done. I want to open a gin bar in Cleveland, Ohio. I want to open a gin bar in New Orleans. Will you have conversations with me where we can talk together about obstacles you hit and maybe you can help me do these things? Mm-hmm. That brings me the biggest joy.
Right. I can tell.
The more, the better.
And it's not work. It's like you were telling me today when we're sitting up, I'm like, she's like, well, I'm going to be here.
I'm going to be here.
I'm going to be here. However much time it takes. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, that's just been amazing. I mean, I learned a lot from Dave, and now I've learned even more from you.
You're going to learn a lot talking to lots of people, whether it's woodworking or whatever else. Sounds
Okay.
wonderful.
All right. Well,
Thank you, dear.
Thank
Such a
you.
pleasure.
All right.
Yeah.